Is it time for you to downsize? We'll tell you how to do it on today's Keeping You Organized. Today on Keeping You Organized, we are joined by a great friend of Smead, Louise Kurzika from everythingstogether.com. And Louise, it's so great to have you on.
And John, I'm so happy to be here.
Well, and we won't tell people how long we've been trying to. I know you were super busy. I know that. We've been trying for months to get you on, and we finally got it all working out. So it's really exciting. And what we want to talk about today is something I know that you are an expert in. You do seminars on this, talks, and that is about this whole concept of downsizing. I mean, it's springtime, especially for, people kind of been in Minnesota, I should say, a little stir crazy. They're realizing they're in these big houses. They want to get moving down. So let's start talking about just this whole concept of downsizing, and who is the audience? How broad is does someone start when they're 45, when they're 85? Just give us some kind of facts and figures about downsizing in general.
Well, it's interesting. I'll give you a little bit of background, and we're going to jump into the developmental psychology area here. There's something that happens to us as human beings between the age of 40 and 50. That's what we call middle adulthood. And in middle adulthood, we take stock of our life. We look and see, what have we accomplished? What have we done? And we think, how do I want things to be different? And a lot of our focus changes. Before 40, if you think about it in your life, we're all about acquiring things. We acquire a spouse. We acquire jobs. We acquire a home. We acquire cars. We acquire stuff to put in the home. We acquire children and everything that comes with them. And we kind of continue on this pace until we get to this place where mentally, and we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to think about it and look at it, and all of a sudden it's like, the things are okay, and that's good, but if I want something here in life, I want some more meaning, it's going to come from experiences, and it's going to come from relationships. And we realize things take up our time, and we have less time to be able to do the things that we want to do, the actions, the activities, or spend time with the people that we want to spend it with. So we often just get this natural progression where after 50 we start to dispose of things. We start to say, I don't need this. I don't need, my brother is a perfect example. When his kids were young and it fit their lifestyle, they had a boat. He couldn't get rid of that boat fast enough when those kids were older, and he found and then he was paying a lot of money to dock it, and it wasn't getting used all the time because they were doing other things. So that's when we start to discard. And so this natural downsizing can happen for anybody, generally after about 45 and on up, as in terms of an age group. And then obviously there are certain life events that create even more reason why we get focused on downsizing in a short period of time.
So what you're saying is people go from the big garden plot to containers, but the one thing they do want to get is they want to get that Harley, right? Isn't that something about 45 or 50? They want to upsize.
You're right. So they might say, hey, let's move to a townhome and let's, I want to invest, some of that extra money because we sold the big house. We paid for the townhome. I got some extra money. Let's go ahead and buy the Harley. And then what I love about that too, John, is that's also when they downsize that they get the storage locker, because we know that in the past 10 years, the building of and the securing of storage lockers has been explosive as an industry. And that's part of the reason why is as people downsize, you don't have the storage space anymore, but you still have the toys that you like. So you have to have a place to have them. Or that's where you put the outdoor furniture, or that's where you put the holiday decorations, or anything that you don't have to have in your living space all the time.
Well, I bet you have some good stories because you've been doing this, over 20-some years, and you are the pro that I think the other people call to bring in to really work with the big cases. Let's talk about maybe one of your recent cases. You don't have to use names, but of someone who really needed to downsize and had maybe a difficulty doing it, and kind of some of the steps you took them through.
Sure. A lot of times I can work with people who have not just the typical challenges with organization, but might for some mental health reason like depression or obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, or even for a neurological reason like ADD, it becomes a very overwhelming process because this is pretty overwhelming anyway. So this one particular client actually was dealing with depression, and it was just almost like pulling teeth for her to just get out of a chair to go do something. It was so difficult. And I went in with a team, a small team, so because it wasn't a huge space, but there had been a buildup of clutter, so we really needed to just be on the regular stuff, get in there and be able to ask questions. And so we did sorting, and then we're able to focus her decision making on just one category at one time, which is a great strategy for everybody because we all get overwhelmed if we're trying to make decisions about this pair of scissors or that waffle iron or all this clothing or all that bedding if we're doing it all mishmash. Right. But if you're looking at one whole category, it's easier. And so we were able to take her through, and really in a very short period of time, over the course of 2 months, we were able to downsize. We were able to get things to donation that she wanted to donate. We were fortunate that we didn't have to junk much of anything, which is, of course, what you're always trying to avoid in these situations is having to pay to dispose of stuff, and got her settled into her new place. So it was really a great success story for her in terms of her life. And what I loved about it is her fiance had said, I think it was maybe a week after she had been completely moved, he said, I don't know how to thank you because she's a different person. You know, she's completely different. She's just so much more relaxed, and she's so much more fun to be with, and she's so much more happy. Mm-hmm. And that's really the outcome, is a better life for you and for the people around you.
So would you say when working with someone like that who's got depression or whatever, is there kind of like a session time limit? You know, like if you're going on a car trip, you know, we got to get out of the car every couple hours. Do you like work for maybe 2 hours and say, okay, that's enough for today, we got to take this in certain chunks, or do you just kind of play it by ear on that?
That's a great question, John. Yeah, that's a great question. As a matter of fact, not just in this process, but in organizing in general, it's really a good idea to minimize the amount of time that you're trying to get that person to interact with you. So sometimes 2 hours actually is a good, workable amount of time. Sometimes I can be there longer taking care of loose ends and tying up things, but 2 hours for them in terms of decision making and having them attentive. And in actuality, just like the car ride, we do tend to take breaks during that 2 hours, because even that can be an overwhelming task for having to make a lot of decisions. And think about if you were sorting through your life's accumulation. You know, there's some reminiscing that goes on. You're tied back to memories that might be good, might be bad. There's all kinds of emotions that you're dealing with. It wears you out. So it's really good to handle it that way. But the nice part is if you're getting assistance from someone like me in a downsize project, there's always plenty that service provider can do and allow that person to go take some time to relax, to kind of debrief, to change their focus for maybe even a half hour, and then be able to come back and work again.
Well, this is some incredible information here, and we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, I want to talk about maybe, and I'll give you a moment or two to think about it, what are some of the checklist items that even if someone maybe is thinking, you know, am I ready to downsize or not? So I want to talk about that when we come back. We're with Louise Kurzika from everythingstogether.com, and we'll be right back. It's Countdown to Napo 2014. Coming up on episodes number 30 to 34 of the Keeping You Organized podcast, you can hear from some of the speakers from this year's Napo National Conference. Hear from Marla D.
It really does take systems that work.
Regina Lark.
How do you organize for people with mental illness, folks in wheelchairs?
Annie Rohrbach.
If we can help our clients and ourselves be more conscious of and identify our mental clutter.
Heather Ahern.
Estate planning is something that we all need to do. We all know we need to do it.
Claire Coomer.
I think getting organized is very much about your space, but it's very, very much about time management.
And more. It's Countdown to Napo 2014 on episodes 30 to 34 of the Keeping You Organized podcast. From Smead, keeping you organized. We are back now on Keeping You Organized, talking about downsizing with Louise Kurzika from everythingstogether.com. And Louise, when we went off to the break, I kind of posed a question to you about what if someone's thinking about, am I a candidate for downsizing? I mean, not every, some people will hem and haw about it for years saying, yeah, I know, like my mother-in-law, I know I should move out of this house, but, I don't do it because they're kind of overwhelmed by the whole thing. And then, after they move out, they say, oh, I wish I would have done that 5 years ago. What are some questions that you can ask people to get them thinking about whether they're a good candidate for downsizing?
So one of the things that I think is good, and I teach a class on downsizing, and we start out talking about, why are you here? What's going on? Well, people are, in the back of their minds, they're always thinking about, when will be the time that I leave this home? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them then quit thinking about it because it's like, I'm going to have to go through every drawer, every cabinet, every cupboard in this home in order for me to leave. And then they're like, well, maybe I'll stay longer. And that's why you get to be, 95 and you haven't moved yet. So some things, if somebody watching this were wondering, God, is it time for me to do it? Ask yourself, do I resent spending time taking care of the amount of space that I live in and own right now? Am I feeling cheated? Like I don't have enough time to do the things that I want to do? Would there be things that I would be able to take activities in or take action on if I didn't have to spend my time here? And also, as many people have experienced who are in the kind of boomer generation, they've had parents maybe who delayed downsizing. And so by the time they were ready, it might have been a medical intervention, whereas one or two of the couple were sick or injured or in some way now is not going to be able to go back and live in that home. And now we have a crisis. We have to deal with something quickly. And that, of course, means that the children or nieces and nephews or whoever can will come, and sometimes even grandchildren, will have to come and work on things. And I've seen where there has been less than 30 days to clear out a house that someone has lived in for 45 years. That is pretty challenging. So, ask yourself if that's what you've experienced with somebody else, maybe it's time for you to start looking. And the great part is, this doesn't have to be done in a short period of time. In the class that I teach, I advise give yourself a 1-year plan. And that's really key, because if you can get something concrete down on paper, as a matter of fact, if I can show you, I usually have my clients put together just a little timeline here, and this is just 12 boxes on a page, one for each month of the year, and then say I'm going to focus on one particular room each month, and then you have a place to kind of log in all your appointments of when you want to spend time there, because the reality is between the plan and committing time in your schedule, that's the only way this is going to get done. If you just say, oh yeah, I'll start that on the weekend, it's not going to happen. You'll find 5 more things to do on the weekend before you get down to the basement to start sorting through all the kids' trophies and the luggage and all the things that have been kind of discarded and gathering dust down there because they haven't been used for years. So having that plan is what can move you into action, but be reasonable about it. If you have a timeline, it doesn't hurt you to declutter now. For instance, if you're thinking about 10 years from now for moving, I have a client right now we've been working through. We go through one part of their house to another, and we just do it month by month. And she just figures, I want to discard as much as I can right now so that as I get older, because she's in her late 50s, she figures that when she's past that 65 and she's retired, she doesn't want to be decluttering her house. Right. She wants to go have some fun. So planning is really a key part to help get you there and to do it in a reasonable amount of time.
Okay. Well, let's say we've got the plan done. We've spent the several months doing it. What are some tips that you can give us for the other destination? Like, what do you do now so that when you move into the other place, you can get up to speed as quickly as possible?
Well, that's a great idea. So as you go through this process, and this is interesting because downsizing is a different kind of decluttering. We're used to doing the decluttering of I move my spring clothes out and the fall clothes come in. Or we go out to the garage in the springtime, clean things out, make sure everything that we want for summer sports and fun and gardening and so forth, lawn maintenance, are ready and available, and kind of store the winter stuff away. So that's kind of just normal maintenance living. But now we're talking about making decisions about what am I going to really be able to take and what's practical. So I think it's great to set up a staging area in your home if you can, an extra bedroom that you could line with shelves, have a table in the center, and now you can bring things there. Because as you make these decisions, not everything is going to be given to donation. A lot of things you may be offering to family or to friends or neighbors. There's actually kind of a hierarchy of how to do that. And then later it might be, well, maybe we box these things up and we have a sale, an estate sale or a garage sale. Or maybe we're going to take some things to consignment, furniture, clothing, all those things, market of value. And then donation might be farther down the road. So the other piece that you're going to want to do is photograph things and get measurements of things. Because now with furniture, you want to be prepared to go into a new place. So you may not downsize furniture until you've actually made a decision on a place to go to. But a lot of the accumulation of extras that we have in our life, how many bags of rubber bands do you really need, John? How many extra blankets and pillows do you really need? You start to look at those things and say, okay, in our new home, we're going to plan to have just a 2-bedroom home. One will be a guest room. And so we don't need to have this many sets of sheets. And likely we're going to have our bed and we're going to have a full-size bed. And so the twins can all go, or the kings can go, or the queens. You're able to kind of make those decisions. And that's really what you want to be able to do. And having this extra room allows you to have a workspace. It allows you to store things and separate and categorize them. You can have the camera right there. You can have a notebook for all the dimensions that you're taking. And now you're ready to pass things on when you're ready by either by to the people I talked about, to the friends, to the donation sources. But you can store things on these shelves until you're kind of ready, all waiting for that next step.
Wow. What's the most unique thing you've had to negotiate with a client to let go of? First thing that comes to your mind.
I probably should state that organizer mantra of it's never our decision. It's always the client's decision. My role is to simply ask questions to help you make that decision. So in that negotiation of questions, this is a way for people maybe to develop some empathy around those people who hoard. Because I had a client that I worked with, and literally I asked her about a piece of yarn that I found on the floor. And I said, so tell me about this, piece of yarn. And she said, oh, well, that was part of a craft project that her daughter had been making, and she couldn't possibly throw that away because that was really important. Now, anybody else would pick that up and think, this is garbage, you have to throw it away. But it's not to that person. So we always have to remember that and realize that some people have to keep more, but you know what, if they do, then you just accommodate that. You find storage space and containers and you organize it and log it, and it's okay to have it there. And then that way their peace of mind is kept and there's harmony in the household.
Well, we're just about done here. I want you to summarize by saying what are the top 2 or 3 or 4 things, kind of bullet point of what someone should consider when they're downsizing.
Okay, so first thing is realize that it is not a sprint race. You're the turtle, not the hare. Okay, so give yourself time. Second is you got to have that plan. If you don't have that plan, it's going to take you forever and you're not going to really move ahead. Third is make sure that you have that staging area because that's going to simplify things. And then I would say fourth is explore your options for disposing of things, not in a garbage fashion where you have to pay for it, but moving things on to those that can use them. And that way you're minimizing your cost, your expense, but you're actually able to utilize that. Right. And if I can, John, I have a great little phrase that I share with the folks that are in this position that sometimes is a nice way to help remember what to do. Okay. And this is from Dina Craik. And her statement is, keep what is worth keeping, and with the breath of kindness, blow the rest away.
Yes. Oh, that's a wonderful note to end on. I think about someone we knew who had a piano which really wasn't worth much, but they found a family that really needed a piano and didn't have any money to buy it, so they gave it to that person, and it was a treasure for them, and the other person was happy that they were able to give that piano away, even though it wasn't worth anything, much more than just saying throw it away. So, yeah, I totally relate to that.
I love that story.
Yeah. And it's everythingstogether.com. Is that a good way for people to get a hold of you?
Yep, that, or they can email Louise at everythingstogether.com.
Okay.
Tell
us about your services, just kind of who you work with and what are really good things for people to contact you about.
You know, with my longevity in the industry, more than 20 years, as you mentioned, I'm more of a generalist. So I tend to work with individuals, both residential and in a business setting. And I often have good skill set because of the classes and education I've taken through Napo, of course, and ICD, to work with people who are challenged by disorganization a little bit more than the typical person. So those are great opportunities, and I do very much hands-on as well as strategic work, and I also do work with people virtually. So I'm using this great tool of Skype or phone consultations with people who are in anywhere, really in the country. Could be the world. I don't know. This could be a new option.
It's a global village, right?
Yes. But sometimes that when people just need that strategic piece and that support to coach them through a project organizationally, I would love to be able to talk to anybody who is interested in learning more about that.
Well, great. It's been great having you here. We're going to get you back on again, too, because we have a lot more to talk about. So one last time, Louise Kurzicka, everythingstogether.com today on Keeping You Organized.